A truly exceptional PhD advisor doesn't have one management style. They adapt their management style for different students. This is probably the hardest thing that a good PhD supervisor does. And I haven't seen it a lot, to be honest. That's why certain supervisors get sort of a reputation for being hands-off, a micromanager, a sleepy, all of that sort of stuff. So a good and exceptional supervisor will be able to know what their students need and provide that to them. Does someone need micromanaging because they're a little bit kind of scattered and early on they need that kind of amount of effort put in to their supervision? Or is someone such an amazing sort of early career researcher that they trust them enough to go off? And if a supervisor is able to have both types of students and successfully supervise them, that is definitely the sign of someone who is truly exceptional. I've actually, to be honest with you, probably never seen it done properly. But there are people on the spectrum that can handle both types of students and do so very well. It's very tough. An exceptional supervisor also has time for students. Now that seems incredibly simple, but you will be amazed at the amount of supervisors that don't make themselves available to their PhD students or their other kind of research team. It doesn't have to be 100% accessibility at all times. They can set aside times for going to see them. You can work out times that suit both of you, but just having that conversation and a supervisor knowing that what their students need is time with them, face to face, over Zoom if they're traveling or on a sabbatical. It's how they help nurture the next scientists or researchers. An exceptional supervisor also cultivates your desires and not theirs. Now, not every PhD student actually wants to go into academia, and arguably, there should be more that don't want to go into academia than do want to go in academia. So a supervisor should ask you what you really want to do and then help cultivate the skills and the experience and the connections and the networking so that you get your career outcomes. Now, a lot of PhD supervisors assume that you just want their job, which in today's world is just, first of all, not feasible, but secondly, just not what a lot of people actually want to do. And so they train you to become academics when really you actually need to be trained to work outside in industry. And that's why some of the best supervisors I've ever had are actually ones that came from industry. You know, they spent at least sort of 5 years in industry and then entered academia as like an industry professor, I think it was called. But those people know what the outside world is like and they can help you get there. And that is a sign of a truly exceptional PhD advisor. They're not just creating another version of themselves. Opportunities. There are loads of opportunities that come across a supervisor's desk, and the sign of an exceptional supervisor is when they can actually pass those opportunities on. Now, I've seen this, and it really helps bolster the early career researchers' kind of experience of academia because they get a genuine insight and a leg up to see what the real academic experience is like. Now, it could be as simple as them being invited for a talk and they go, actually, I'll send one of my students instead. That just helps sort of like build the career of people under them. And also it kind of like passes on the kudos, like the kudos juice that flows from the supervisor to the student. It's like, it's an actual recognition that they trust this student, and that can really help their career and their little personal brand if they want to stay in academia. And so passing on opportunities and actively looking for opportunities for their PhD students to boost them up is something that really helps early career researchers and doesn't happen enough. Now, this one just seems like incredibly simple, but it doesn't happen enough. And that is that they actually acknowledge the work that their students are doing. I have seen loads of professor level, supervisor level presentations at conferences where they flick through slides and tell you about all the work, but they actually do not say who did the work. And they just kind of put a big list of names at the end of the presentation. And you're like, well, that's just a big list of names. It's just like, I know all of those people did that work, but you're just kind of flashing them up at the end and being like, oh, my work, blah, blah, blah. This is what we found, blah, 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 blah. They had nothing to do with the actual research. And then, boom, there's my team. All right, move on. So a good and exceptional supervisor actually acknowledges what they are getting from their PhD students and their researchers. They say in a presentation out loud, genuinely, that these are the people that are making my career, essentially. They don't ever say it in those words. Go check out my other video about other things you can't say out loud in academia. But importantly, that's what they kind of allude to, or they should allude to, is that these are the people that are boosting my career at the moment. So thank you very much. Just simple names on a slide, or just acknowledgement that this PhD student has been sort of pioneering this area of my lab's research. And yeah, just simple little acknowledgement, but it doesn't happen enough. And that's a sign of a truly exceptional supervisor if they're happy to let that ego sort of sink down a little bit and just say, these people are doing awesome work. An exceptional supervisor is a great communicator of the importance of their work. It's something that a really great supervisor can sort of provide to their PhD students when they're feeling low. It can really sort of like help boost that motivation when you're just feeling a little bit down, things aren't going well. You go speak to your supervisor, and their passion and ability to communicate that passion is very important for keeping the team moving along. I've talked about in other videos where one of my PhD supervisors, after like a 5-minute talk with them, I was like, this is now the best idea in the world. I'm going to go do it, even though I felt bad going in. And so it's that ability to communicate to their PhD students the importance of the work, and also sort of like raise that motivation level, but also ability to communicate that to the outside world, because that is essentially like the brand that you are working under. And so by having a supervisor that can communicate, it just makes everything a little bit easier. And you also absorb some of that sort of like ability to communicate. And that's very important as well. So good communication about the research, great. An exceptional supervisor also tells you how things are really done. Like, how things really operate in academia. That's what this channel was all about, because it doesn't happen enough. A good academic supervisor will sit you down and go, right, here's the academic game. Maybe they don't even know it as the game officially, but they know. They know all the ins and outs and the tricks and the things and the people you speak to and how you say things. And a good and exceptional supervisor will pass on that kind of unwritten, the forbidden knowledge of academia to their PhD students, and not just kind of see them as someone to help pass up academic kudos up the pyramid to them. And so a good and exceptional academic supervisor will let you in on the forbidden knowledge. An exceptional supervisor also gives you a real understanding of their financial situation. It's a little bit awkward to talk about this, especially with your PhD students and your research team, but they should be honest and open about how much money they have, how much money they have, like a runway for their lab, and what that means for you. I have known of research PhD students being led on by saying, oh, the money's coming, the money's for 8 months. That should be, and probably is, illegal. That's free work they're getting. So that's clearly the other side of the coin. But an exceptional supervisor will be like, look, I have this amount of money, I have this amount of sort of runway for, and my team, does that work for you? And is honest and open about that situation. Not many people actually do that. Lastly, an exceptional PhD supervisor says, I don't know. It is too often that a PhD supervisor will try to fumble their way through an idea, suggestion, advice, and just going, I don't know, maybe ask this supervisor or go speak to this person, is much better than sort of ruining a couple of months worth of research because they made something up. And so an exceptional PhD supervisor, you'll hear them say, I don't know quite a lot. Or I I don't know right now. That's probably the best you can get for them, is like, we need to find that out together. And so an exceptional PhD supervisor will let you know that they don't know, and that's kind of your then job to kind of work it out and tell them. Seems simple, but the ego gets in the way so many times. So there we have it. There are the truly exceptional PhD supervisor qualities. Let me know in the comments what you would add. And also remember to go check out academiainsider.com. That's my project where I've got my ebooks, the Ultimate Academic Writing Toolkit, as well as the PhD Survival Guide. I've also got the forum, which is growing, and the blog as well. So that's really happening over there. Go check it out. And also, if you want free stuff, go sign up to my newsletter. I'll put a link in the description. When you sign up, you'll get 5 emails over about 2 weeks. Everything from the tools I use, the podcasts I've been on, how to write the perfect abstract, and more. It's exclusive content available for free for your email, but no spam ever. It's worth the risk, I reckon. And that's it. So I'll see you in the next video.